The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and/or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
Get ready to dive into the comic book realm where heroes rise and villains take the helm. We're here to dissect the stories and the art. A source material, we tear the panels apart. Welcome to the source material show now. We don't hold back, we won't let you down. From Batman to Spider-Man, it's all fair game. We talk about the heroes, the villains, and everything in between. Oh yeah.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Source Material Comics Podcast. That's right. We are live and in effect right now. We are going to be talking 3 books. That over there is Mark Radulich. Mark Radulich, you ready to talk some comics tonight?
This is every Irish song ever.
So, okay, just real quick. Mark's referring to a this song will be on, right? An upcoming release.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I have completed production on the next Fra Diavolo album, and I decided to not make it entirely metal. I just figured let the song match the genre and the genre match the song. Don't force it. And this actually does relate to source material.
Yeah, that's kind of why I wanted you to kind of into what spawned the song.
So the album is called Holidays Are Hell.
Mm-hmm.
And starting with October, it goes all the way to Rosh Hashanah, so almost a full year. And it goes Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, Ramadan, Hanukkah, and then we're back into the calendar, Valentine's Day, and then we get the St. Patrick's Day. And you know what St. Patrick's Day means, right?
Oh my goodness, do I ever?
Irish drinking songs, that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, yep.
So I was thinking about, like, what do I want to do for this? Like, the obvious but not obvious. Like, and I was reminded of a source material back when you were Essential. And I was doing source material live, and I was very much married to Synergy.
Mm-hmm.
We got to March, and I was like, we need a St. Patrick's Day comic, because it was St. Patrick's Day week. So there was a lot of, like, I think that was the week we did The Irishman, and Robert's Never Forgiven Me for like 8 hours.
Oh, yes.
An 8-hour Martin Scorsese movie.
Oh, gosh.
So we did The Irishman. It was the same week that we did something on the Metal Hammer of Doom that was like some sort of like Irish cover band. And then I needed a comic book because you weren't doing source material at the time. You were Essential, but you were deigning to do Metal Hammer of Doom because you could just pop in like Snoop Dogg. You didn't have to do any preparation.
Right.
So I was looking for like St. Patrick's Day comics, and there's this I can't remember the name of the comic anymore, but there's an anthology like horror comic book series that you could find a lot of the back issues at Ollie's.
Okay.
And one of them was for St. Patrick's Day. So I did that with Chris Sheehan.
Okay. All right. Now I see. Okay.
And we did the review, and then at the time, if you'll remember, we were being sponsored by Amazon Music.
Oh, yes.
So I had to do an ad read for Amazon Music, and I turned it into an entire bit about like Irish playlists, like Irish drinking song playlists that are on Spotify. I literally just typed in like St. Patrick's Day in Irish, and like a bunch of these playlists and compilation albums came up. And I found like the one with the largest track listing because I don't ever learn my lesson about stuff like that. Like I never feel like we have enough material. I could talk for an entire hour and say absolutely nothing, but I'm still afraid. like I have my grandparents, like they are Greatest Generation people. They lived through the Great Depression. I have their mentality. We're gonna run out of stuff. It's like I make too much food. I have too much content. I am always afraid. So in this particular case, I was like, I didn't think we'd had enough to do a bit. So I found the largest playlist I could find, and I went through every last track with Chris. And Chris was a good sport about it, but after a while he was like, "This is borderline racist." And he was like, "What is the next song? Like Red Nose and Rosy Cheeks?" You know? And then I was just like, "Yeah, the next one is Potato Famine by Car Bomb."
Yes,
I'm an asshole. And we just went back and forth on that. And so the whole thing is us making up like stupid racist Irish drinking song names. So go ahead.
I was just gonna say Grim Fairy Tales.
Yeah.
St. Patrick's Day Special 2013. That's the
one. So I grabbed that bit and I threw it into ChatGPT and I'm like, let's make a song out of this. And ChatGPT did a spit take.
Yeah.
Like it literally just kind of went like, really? Potato Famine by Car Bomb, you asshole? And I'm like, yeah, I'm terrible. I'm like, you are. Let's like, and then and it's like, it's so funny when you train ChatGPT to sort of mirror your personality and give it a little bit of freedom, because it's like egging me on.
Oh yeah.
Like, I can see why it tells people to not take their meds, because for me, I don't have that issue. I have you're such a dick. This is great. Do more of this. Could you alienate more people? This would be great. This is fantastic.
Let me help you.
Yeah. So that's where the idea for every Irish drinking song ever came from.
Wow.
And it is absolutely an amalgamation of like drunken lullabies by Flogging Molly and Shipping Up to Boston by Dropkick Murphys. And it literally just starts listing bands. It's like a Kid Rock song. I like AC/DC and Mark, you know, like it's just ripping through all these different Irish bands. And at one point, it actually brings up Potato Famine by Car Bomb.
Yeah, it straight up yells it. And I was like, is that an actual band? Because I had to go look.
Car Bomb, a real band. God, I wish. That'll be my next project. The Irish terrorist group Car Bomb.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, look, it's our friend from Thursday. This fella, Jasp. He was sending in comments when Robert and I were talking the 28 Days Later trilogy.
All right. Well,
friend.
it's gonna be a different subject matter tonight. We'll be talking comic books. So if you want to stick around, great.
Anyways, that's that first line I gave. I think 8 minutes on that. This is every Irish drinking song ever. That's where it came from. And I'm going to tell you how it's my favorite song on the entire album.
Oh, yes.
I've listened to it a zillion times.
It's good.
That is
it's good.
Got that 2 to 3
Irish
minutes,
stomp.
2 to 3 minutes of unadulterated joy.
Oh, yes. Yes, indeed.
All right, Jesse, take over.
Not joyful enough are these books. Every single one of these books.
Stop letting me pick things. This is what happens.
Did you purposely theme these together?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So
we've done all the other Crow stuff. So I don't do this as much anymore, but I have a fucking different job. So I don't have time to kind of sit in my office and wonder what podcasts I should be doing like I used to. Like I actually have to work now. So I'm busy. I can't. I left my office job to work from home, and I've never been busier.
Not what you expected.
Not at all. But I'm okay with that. Like I don't mind being busy. But the point is, I don't have a lot of time anymore to like be thinking about like what else can I torture Jesse with, which used to be a pastime of mine. But back a few months ago, I was trying to come up with different ideas for us to do for a comic podcast. And you know me, I don't want to do the standard Marvel and DC superhero bullshit as if we can help it. Like I don't mind the occasional all-star Superman, but for the most part, I'm really trying to stay away from that kind of stuff. Like so, just trying to find different authors, different ideas, and we'd already done 2 Long Road to Ruins and a Damn You Hollywood on all 5 Crow movies, but we'd never talked about the comic. And I was like, well, that seems like an obvious one that we should have done at some point.
Yeah.
So because we do 3 books, or we do about 20 to 21 issues, or you punch me in the face, speaking of someone's going to get their head kicked in tonight, I was chastised a few months ago for
Chastised.
Was it 5 books I made you do, and you were like, not again.
It was the amount of the issues. That
Right.
was the thing. Like it was
Well,
just
it's
an
4 or 5 issues per book, and it's 5 books. It's like almost 30 issues.
Yeah. The Darth Vader stuff, as good as it was,
Yeah.
that was a lot of stuff to cover. And then I think we kind of took another stab at something else that was pretty long. So you
Right.
realize that, okay, maybe it's best if we just
If I
kind of
stop
curtail
doing this to you.
the amount of issues that we have to cover.
I think it was when we initially started doing like 3 in a row. It was like enough to give you like 3 months worth of material. So in my head it's always 3 books, but I never look at how many issues per book this is. So the initial triple feature, the initial source material live was The Crow, and then I was like 2 other books, please, from ChatGPT that kind of matches the tone, and it pitched me Laila Starr. I was like, all right, this is cool. This was an Eisner nominee. I don't know if it won the Eisner, but it's, this was on a lot of people's like best of the year comic for a while.
Okay.
And then the other one it pitched was Day Tripper, but Day Tripper is 12 issues, and
Gotcha.
I ran that past you, and you were like, knock it the fuck off. So I pulled Day Tripper, but now I'm 4 or 5 issues short, and I happen to have The Butcher of Paris sitting on my shelf, and I'm just like, well, it doesn't quite have that like gothic fable, earthy fantasy feel of
Right.
The Crow or Laila Starr, but boy, is it about death, so it counts, right, Jesse?
Yeah, I say it counts. It counts. So as far as where we're going to start tonight, do you have a preference? Or my thought is we start with Butcher of Paris, because I think that might be the one that I have the least to say about. But I say we start there, and then we can actually just do like the graphic says here: Butcher of Paris, Crow, Laila Starr. How's that sound?
You're the boss. I'm just here.
He's just here. He is here.
Talk about everything but the topic at hand.
Well, let's jump into Butcher of Paris, 5-issue series. This dropped in 2019. Looks like right at the end of 2019. Stephanie Phillips is the author. Dean Kotz is the illustrator, and Jason Wordy was the illustrator here as well.
He certainly is, Dick.
Published by Dark Horse Comics. And so what we find out here right at the end of the first issue is that, and well, actually, I think it was right here on the front cover. It says based on a true story. So we get 5 issues of a true story, essentially. I'm going to read you what I came up with here. It's a paragraph I'm going to start calling the gist. All right. I'm not going to do a large summary here on the podcast proper. I'll probably put something in post, but here's the gist of Butcher of Paris.
Give it to me, baby.
The Butcher of Paris is a gripping true crime comic set against the backdrop of the reading.
This is why we have ChatGPT. Hang on, really quick. So I went viral again. Another one of my posts on TikTok went viral.
Which one?
So if you're not everything that goes on TikTok is now going on Facebook or YouTube, because if it's over 3 minutes, then it's not a reel or a short, or it gets cut off. So I don't want to do the extra work of turning it into a video.
Yeah.
So it's only on TikTok right now, and it's about housing delisting. And
interesting. I know a little bit about what you're talking about, actually.
Yeah, so a lot of people are pulling their houses off the market because they're not getting. A lot of them are, depending on who you ask, overvalued.
Man, you are, and by the way, you are in like the Florida is having it really tough right now. As far as
I'm kind of at the epicenter of the next fucking real estate bust.
It's not good.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. So my point is, I did a whole like 5 minutes on that the delisting is more than it seems. It's a canary in a coal mine, yada yada yada. Well, this apparently, not since I did the one on Amazon and AI, have I touched a nerve, and it went viral like within a day. Like I think I put it up at 1:00 yesterday, and it's already over 10,000 views.
Damn,
like, something like 300 comments.
Wow.
And, yeah. There's a reason why I was telling you that story.
Well, I know I was having problems reading here.
Oh,
So
okay. Yeah. Okay, that's what it was. So somebody commented, they're like, it is very obvious you're reading an AI script.
Okay.
That was their entire comment. They were like, my guy, I can hear the chat GPT. I responded with a line from KMFDM Sucks, which is, our music is sampled. It's totally fake. It's done by machines because they don't make mistakes. And it made me think of you fucking fudging your fucking words because you used to not do this and have
Right.
ChatGPT do it because it's a machine and it doesn't make mistakes. And
There
everyone
are.
went, no, we want flippity floppity fucking stuttering Jesse back. Come
Yep.
on, Appalachia.
Welcome
Massacre the
back.
English language. We love it.
Here you go.
I'm
Here
sorry
you
for that.
go.
I'm sorry for that tangent. Please continue.
No, I love it. I love it. The Butcher of Paris is a gripping true crime comic set against the backdrop of Nazi-occupied France, telling the chilling story of Dr. Marcel Pétois, a man who posed as a savior to desperate Jews seeking escape, only to murder them and profit from their deaths. Across 5 tightly woven issues.
Enough true story.
Yeah.
That seems like the pitch of a horror movie. It's totally like a thing that happened.
Yep. Across 5
Dude,
issues.
we can't catch a break, says the Jew in the deicide shirt.
We follow Detective Georges Victor Massot, his dog pursuit of Pétois through a city already suffocating under occupation and chaos. As the war draws to a close, the hunt collides with the liberation of Paris, political backstabbing, and a public more eager for sensational gossip than justice. Blending wartime espionage, noir-style investigation, and the unsettling psychology of a serial killer who hides behind patriotism. The series peels back the layers of one of history's most horrifying and stranger-than-fiction criminal cases. It's a tense, atmospheric ride for fans of true crime, historical thrillers, and stories where the darkness of war hides monsters far worse than the enemy at the gates. All right. So let me just go ahead and put this out there. This was a pretty breezy read. I didn't think it was, as far as text goes, I honestly think, when we compare it to the other 2 books, I think The Crow doesn't have a lot of text amongst its pages, but still, Butcher of Paris had quite a bit, and it was still pretty easy to get through. We did, find out at the end of the issue, it talks a little bit more about this actual event that happened. And I'll kind of read a summary here just real quick. It reflects there's a 2-page afterword that Stephanie Phillips writes, and it's on the historical events and personal connections behind the series. Phillips explains how she first discovered Marcel Pétois' crimes, murders of an estimated 60 to 200 people, most of them Jews seeking escape from Nazi-occupied France, and became compelled to tell the story. She describes Pétois as posing as a resistance fighter to lure victims to his Paris townhouse, preying on the desperate during a time when over 13,000 French Jews were being sent to Auschwitz. Writing the series has been emotionally heavy, especially given her own family's World War II history and the continued presence of anti-Semitism today. Phillips recounts the unsettling atmosphere of Pétois' 1946 trial, which took place after the liberation of Paris. The audience treated it like it was entertainment, laughing even when the prosecutor implored them to value human life here. She draws parallels between Pétois' actions and the modern dangers of fascist rhetoric, stressing the importance of empathy and remembering individual lives amid massive wartime death tolls. The essay frames Pétois as a more monster than man and situates the comic's larger purpose, not just to recount crimes, but to confront complicity and the perils of silence, echoing L. Wiesel's warning that neutrality aids the oppressor, never the victim. What do you think of that, Mark?
I mean, just think about what the implications of what you just read are. Germany is a lot of parallels to what's happening now in the sense of like grooming by your government to accept things you wouldn't accept if it was coming at you head on, or if you weren't kind of conditioned to accept certain things. I'm saying that because I've been somewhat talking a lot about that now on TikTok, about this idea of like we have the coming corporatocracy, the AI robot revolution, such a radical sea change in how human beings operate on this planet, many of which will not go well for most humans. And how it's like my dad says about, people voting against their best interests. We're being conditioned to accept things that we think are good that are really going to end up being bad.
Yeah.
Think about what's happening with the Butcher of Paris as the parallel. That's why I was talking about it. Things are so bad for these Jews that like they're so desperate, they're willing to take a chance, and and it's like to the right is concentration camps and genocide. To the left, mass murder, serial killing. Like, imagine, I mean, I sometimes wonder why there's a lot of like personality disorder in, the boomer Jewish culture, a lot of, population. And then I remember, oh, that's right. Everywhere they turned, people were trying to kill them for a while.
Yeah. That's,
that's
going to have an effect on the human psyche.
A little
for sure.
bit. Trauma is generational. It stays in biological. It stays in your body. And you pass it on to your kids, unfortunately. There's a biological thing going on with generational trauma. And so, like, really, like, first of all, when you asked me what I think, my first thought was, why hasn't anyone made a movie out of this? This is so good.
Yeah.
This is courtroom drama. This is detective story. This is whodunit, serial killing, also a social commentary, a historical piece, a Schindler's List-esque commentary on the treatment of Jews or Band of Brothers, that kind of a thing, where it's just like, look, this is a very horrible thing, and every once in a while we need a reminder of we shouldn't be this horrible to each other.
Right.
So our friend here running commentary, my grandparents always kept their basement pantry fully stocked. Yeah, mine too. I mentioned that earlier. I don't know if you were on the show at that point, but I have Silent Generation, Greatest Generation grandparents died about 20 years ago, and they were in their 70s or 80s at the time. So they lived through World War. They lived through the Great Depression and World War II. And their basement always was like stock full of like non-perishables, canned goods. I don't know why they kept the egg cartons, like in case they had to build an emergency recording studio. Like I asked my grandmother, like my Nana, I've talked very fondly about my Italian grandmother, who I refer to as Nana. And we did this when we reviewed the movie Nanas. She talked about being a farmer and that she's from Sicily and she was very attached to the land. And even though they lived in suburban Long Island, Massapequa, she kept a very Italian-style garden so to stay rooted to her traditional gardening farmer roots. Those are my lasting memories of her. But yeah, they weren't Jews. That's my mother's side of the family, but they were definitely like, you don't know when the bottom is falling out in this world anymore, so let's just be prepared. And it's funny, like I made a joke about it earlier, but like I've kept that since then. I made fucking way too much food tonight for dinner because, God forbid, either of my kids fucking starve. They don't finish the meal I made them, by the way, but I'm always afraid I don't have. You have 2 pork chops. You have to have 2. One won't cut it. You might starve in the nuclear winter that is Tampa. I'm crazy. But that's what I'm thinking about when I read this book. It's very cinematic. It's very layered. It's very dense in that there's a lot going on with this book that I think a variety of people could take something away from. I think this is begging to be made into a movie, and I'm really shocked it hasn't. And I want to somebody at Dark Horse, like, did you option this yet? Why haven't you?
Right. Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting kind of like, it wasn't really a whodunit because we kind of know who done it at the beginning of this, but it's a matter of trying to find them. Plus, you have a detective who is not just trying to catch this serial killer, but he's also fighting against the Gestapo who's coming there and is giving him a hard time.
You pronounce it Gestapo?
Say what?
Did you pronounce it Gestapo?
Just
it's That's
Gestapo is what I
that's
meant.
Pinocchio's dad. That's Geppetto.
Geppettos. Gestapos, Geppettos, whatever.
I used to go get cannolis over in Brooklyn from Gestapo's.
The Gestapo.
I would get a slice. You know what I mean? Slice for $1. You get a slice of pizza from Gestapo's, and you get yourself a nice Italian.
I wonder how well that shop did. Gestapo's.
Gestapo. Hey, Gestapo! Hey, shut the fuck up! I'm making pizza over here.
Hey, I'm on marinara, huh?
Marinara sauce, huh?
Little provolone.
You look at it. He's looking a little skinny. Get him a slice. Gestapo's. Bayside, Brooklyn.
What was the name of the pizza shop that Spike Lee went and visited? What was the name of that one?
I don't know, but he needed to put some black faces on the wall right quick. But there's a lion hanging out.
Why isn't there any on there? I wondered. So yeah, I mean, he's got to fight against number one, the Germans who are there, and then there's a lot of like, it goes really quick in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we only got 5 issues here, but at one point, another German official shows up and is like, okay, I'm here to destroy the town. The next issue, destroy Paris. And the next issue, I mean, we get some fighting, but that's about it. Then Paris is liberated.
Right.
But then just because.
Could you imagine if you're a Gentile Frenchman and you're just like, just take the Jews already. Stop burning Paris.
Yeah, what's going on
laughing
here?
about it, but it's horrible, actually.
It is extremely. But yeah, I mean, he goes afoul of that one. I wish I could remember his name. It's like Yodcom. Officer. They get Masu and Yodcom get into it in the beginning, and then.
So you're struggling with like the French to English stuff. Can I tell you how that annoyed me in this book? Because they would speak like broken French. Like, and you know that because they're in France, they're just speaking French. So it's just like, Jesse, mon ami. No. Pick fucking one.
One of them, one or the other.
Yeah, we're not in Quebec, okay?
We get it.
Like, either it's all French or none of it's French. But don't be like, mon ami, I would like to read you a comic book. No.
No.
That annoys the piss out of me.
But yeah, it was interesting to watch Masu try to find this guy, all the stuff that he had to run into in regards to, and then he had the German officer like falsely accuse him of being one who gave them one that gave the Nazis information, which he wasn't, and that cost him his job. And of course, Yodcom wasn't going anywhere. He ends up getting killed.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, there's a. All
right,
I do
where they're questioning the murderer. Could you not see that being played by Jack Nicholson, a la his character from A Few Good Men?
A Few Good Men, 100%.
I don't have I put the book back on my shelf, but I would love to just read that in Jack Nicholson's fucking voice.
Oh yeah, and it's pretty gruesome. I feel like this thing was only 5 issues, and I feel like it could have went, or at least really fleshed this whole thing out a little bit more.
It's not a movie. This is absolutely a Netflix series in the making.
Yeah. But aside from that, I really don't have a whole. This wasn't something that, of the 3 books that we're going to be talking about tonight, this wasn't something that made me go, holy crap, there's a lot to talk about here. This is a true story. It's horrible. I mean, it is really somebody preying on the fact that people want to get away from the horrific things that the Germans are doing. And this guy is, just killing people left and right. And
let me ask you a question. Do you think this is an odd choice to do as a comic book?
I feel like Stephanie had something that she wanted to say, clearly, that she saw this and was like, this is a story that needs to be told. So is it an odd choice? I don't think so. Like Dark Horse, her taking it to Dark Horse and saying, I want to do this. I mean, what has she got to lose? This, again, is one of my favorite reasons.
I mean, maybe it would be like
medium.
Wrestleopolis or whatever the fuck the name of the book was.
WrestleTopia,
where he couldn't get a script made in Hollywood, so he made a comic book in the hoping someone would option it.
That would make way more sense to me as to what they're doing here. I bet you there's got to be some kind of like show that did a 45-minute special documentary or whatever. You know, the wife watches all the crime shows where it's specializes on some killer. This thing has to be somewhere.
Let's ask Andy.
Oh, ask away.
Anyone ever done a documentary or show or movie on
Marcel?
the Butcher of Paris?
Yeah, and I'm going to look here to Marcel Petois.
It's searching. ChatGPT 5.0 is searching the web.
Oh, look out.
Yeah, here's what is out there on films and documentaries on the Butcher of Paris, Marcel Petiot. A chilling documentary narrated through historical reenactment, spotlighted how it's on YouTube.
Okay.
There's a real stories documentary that's on YouTube that you can watch, spotlighting how Dr. Marcel Petiot exploited the chaos of Nazi-occupied Paris to prey on the desperate. The Murder Network.
Oh yeah, I'm subscribing.
The Murder Network, a serial killer in Nazi Paris, 2022, a focused documentary, 70 minutes exploring Petiot's deceptive scheme under the guise of resistance, available on platforms like Apple TV, Pluto, Prime, and Tubi. Dr. Petiot, a dramatized French feature film. Oh shit, Jesse!
Really?
There's a French film out there. We know how much I love my French films. You know, throw a little sexual assault in there, and I'm sold. Dr. Petiot, from 1990, a dramatized French feature film directed by Christian de Chalon, starring Michel Charot as Petiot. It dramatizes his crime during World War II. I wonder if French people hear me try to do a French accent and are just like nails on a chalkboard.
They have clicked the like button and they have subscribed.
There's a podcast episode and a radio podcast feature. So there you go.
Yeah. So what's the name of the movie, the French movie?
Docteur, Docteur, Petiot. Petiot.
Okay.
From 1990.
All right. Does it have a year when it was created?
1990.
Okay.
I'm totally like throwing that into a triple feature and making you talk about it.
Oh, geez. Where the hell are we going to find that?
1990 French films.
Oh, yeah.
Jesse's like, I quit.
Dr. Satan is an Apple podcast, apparently.
Yes.
That just excuse me. The name of the podcast, I believe, is Killer Minds, and they did an episode called Dr. Satan, Marcel Petois.
So our friend here from the Netherlands, the art looks fine, but I think it could have gone a bit darker, a bit more noir. Yeah, I was thinking more of like an Ed Burns book than what we got here. This feels a lot like the art from The Boys.
It's very clean. I will give you that for sure. And it is not dark at all.
I don't think it's reflective of the material. I think it wasn't something I was going to comment on necessarily. Like eventually you would have asked me what I thought of the art, and I would have said it's clean, it's pretty, it's bright, it's very comic booky. It doesn't match the tone of the book at all.
Right. When they go down into the dungeon and they find the chains and stuff, it's not dark, it's not dingy, it's well lit, you know. It doesn't have that like eerie, creepy feel like you think it should.
No, it's like they got a porn director to shoot the movie. Like there's no aesthetic here at all, dude. I shoot porn. I just need to make sure it's well lit.
Oh man. All right, well there it is. That's our discussion on Butcher of Paris. Did you have anything else there?
Well, we know the conversation is over when I compare something to porn. That's the rule.
Yep, that is the rule. It's like, yeah, there you go. All right, well then let's go ahead. I have much more to say about these other two books, and I think a lot of it has to do with just some of the unique subject matter and the way that the stories are told. Let's start with The Crow. All right. So
I hear they made a movie of this.
They did, as a matter of fact, and a kick-ass soundtrack as well. Let me just ask you first, when you were a young lad collecting comic books, did you hear of The Crow before the movie?
No. I found out it was a comic book after. I want to say, actually, I knew of the soundtrack before I knew of the movie.
Oh, really? Oh, one of those. Okay.
Well, it had Pantera on it.
Yes, it did.
I think my connection to The Crow is through Pantera. But all of those bands, which we talked about on a Metal Hammer Review, if I remember correctly, it had it had Pantera on it. It had
9 Inch Nails.
9 Inch Nails. Hey, let me bring it up really quick.
It had
it
Rage
had
Against
a
the
lot.
Machine.
It had a lot of bands of the 90s. The Rollins band.
Yep. Rollins band doing Ghost Rider.
Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
Motorcycle. Hero. Like he's gonna shit his fucking pants. Henry Rollins.
Henry
ruined a pair
Rollins.
of pants getting that song out, but it was worth it. My Life with a Thrill Kill. That's what I was thinking of. So here's the entire, and like this is like wow, the 90s. It was The Cure, Machines of Loving Grace, Stone Temple Pilots, 9 Inch Nails, doing a Joy Division cover, Rage Against the Machine, The Violent Femmes, the Rollins band. That Ghost Rider song is actually a cover of a song from the band Suicide. Helmet, Pantera covering Poison Idea. I told you back then, my friend Curly, where he fucking at the end of the badge, it's like what's behind the badge, but because it's Phil Anselmo and he kind of warbles it, it sounds like what big eyes you have. So for the longest time, knowing full well what he's really saying, the end of that song is always what big eyes you have. Nothing to do with the song, but
perfect.
Anyway, we were silly motherfuckers.
Silly.
For Love Not Lisa, My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult, The Jesus and Mary Chain, Medicine, and Jane Siberry. So yeah, I was a huge Pantera fan. Pantera was on this, so I got the Crow soundtrack. Oh wait, it's a soundtrack to a movie. All my friends are goth. I'm kind of goth adjacent. We should watch this movie. Oh my god, it's amazing. And then I promptly forgot about it.
I'm sure you probably heard about Brandon Lee. And
yeah, that was the other thing. It was like the mythology tied to the movie about his untimely and strange death, and it being somewhat similar to the way his dad died and all of that. That made the news. But even then, like that was more of like my friends were making a huge deal out of it. I was like, oh, sucks to be him. Like I don't know. That stuff doesn't necessarily affect me maybe the way that it should.
Sure.
We so we did the Long Road to Ruin on The Crow way back when. We did, 2 episodes, the original and then the second movie. It was 1 episode, and the 3 and 4 were the second episode. We talked a lot about this last year when the Crow remake came out from Lionsgate, formerly a studio. And I talked about how like The Crow is just a really perfect movie, and it's not so easily recreated. It was definitely a product of its time. And I will tell you, after having read the book, I now understand why, if anyone read this book in that era and you were even tangentially part of the goth culture, this was your fable. This was mythology. This was like, this thing aesthetically spoke to kids living in that time, probably the way nothing else did besides the music of the era.
It's so as a kid,
Tim Burton movies.
right. So I think like I'm 13 when I first hear about The Crow, and it's interesting you bring up goth,
and you were like mired in the goth culture, if I remember correctly.
Oh yeah,
eyeshadow and everything.
Oh my goodness,
which was the style in the Appalachians.
Yes. Oh my god. Yeah, you got. I went to the mall. I fit right in. So I remember like talking. I wasn't dating the girl or anything like that, but it was I was talking to some girls that didn't go to my school on the phone, and I can remember she was definitely, if you're going to call anyone I knew a goth, she was probably a goth, and she talked about this comic book. So this is 1991. I assume this is prior to. This is prior to the 5th book coming out. But anyway, I remember she was the first person that actually brought that up to me. And I was like, oh, hey, a girl that actually reads comics is talking to me about comic books. And I'll never forget it.
You tore a hole in your pants.
Swing. appropriate for the time.
Yes.
But yeah, so I remember her bringing that up and just being, amazed. Oh, okay. Well, what's this stuff about the Crow? And I remember I probably had a Overstreet comic book price guide that listed it in it, but I didn't know what in the world it was until the movie drops. The movie drops, and then I watched the movie, and I still never had a chance to read The Crow until we did this show.
It's an odd thing because, we've done so many of the big pillar books, and I'm counting me, but you've done it on your own. Whether or not I'm not always on source material, sometimes you talk to other people.
I do,
but when you think about some of the really big pillar comics that are out there, we've done so many of them, and this was just a giant oversight that I wanted to correct.
Yeah. So I was glad to have the opportunity to talk about it tonight because I had never read it and I've been wanting to read it. This is actually a book that a graphic novel that I own. I got it at an auction 3-4 years ago.
Oh, really? I bought the art for the special edition that I have up on the screen. That's the one I bought. And I bought the hardcover special edition special for the show.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I bought it. I think I got it in an auction with a very large amount of trade paperbacks. So
did it come with a young goth girl as part of the auction?
No, unfortunately not. I don't remember any girls being at that auction. So there you go.
They're in the long box.
They come up. It's like a vampire.
I can't breathe in this thing.
So yeah, let me give the creative team here real quick. James O'Barr is, I think, the sole person that's doing this. I didn't see any other names attached to this. So James O'Barr conceived, created it. And in order, now this is straight from the wiki, and I kind of want to read this here real quick because we are definitely going to be talking about it. But he created this character, created the book, in order to help him get over the loss of his fiancée. Now his
yes, this was a trauma exercise.
Right. This is in 1978. He loses his fiancée. He starts working on this, I think I want to say in the early 80s. It doesn't get published by Caliber Press until 1989. First 4 books come out in 1989. Book 5 doesn't come out until 1992. So there's a large gap to finish this story. I don't know what happens, but I do know he ends up, after the death of his fiancée, he goes into the Marines. So I don't know if that has anything to do with, the large gap in between, but regardless, he was.
We're going out to fight the enemy now. I'm trying to finish my comic book. I'm very sad. You're going to need to put that away, soldier.
There was very much after reading, a good bit of his, what was on the wiki. I'm not going to say his biography, but what was on his wiki, it felt like I don't want to say he had a death wish, but it was very much like a situation where, okay, hey, I'm going to go into the military now. I don't know if it's a situation where he was wanting to get his mind off of what happened, but
you're talking like passive suicidal ideations, where it's, I don't actively want to kill myself, but if I put myself in a position where it's likely to happen, I will not fight it either.
Yeah, and there is some of that in this book.
Yeah.
There's a very graphic part where he is remembering. Let me do the gist first. We'll get our characters out there, and then we'll talk a little bit about it. So here's the gist. Let me drag this over here. The Crow, a raw, unflinching blend of revenge, tragedy, gothic romance, and surreal poetry. A graphic novel that bleeds equal parts beauty and brutality. Across 5 books, James O'Barr weaves the story of Eric, a man murdered alongside his fiancée, Shelley, and pulled back from the grave by a supernatural crow to exact vengeance on the men who destroyed their lives. It's not just a tale of payback. It's a fever dream of love and loss where moments of tender memory crash violently against scenes of stark, stylized violence. Each confrontation with Shelley's killers is more than action. It's a reckoning steeped in dark humor, haunting imagery, and Eric's lyrical inner voice, giving the book an almost musical rhythm of rage and reflection. From grimy back alleys to quiet snow-covered graves, the Crow, not the snow. The snow informer. Okay, the Crow.
Shady boom boom now.
The Crow marries punk rock grit with gothic elegance, making it as emotionally resonant as it is visually striking. For readers drawn to stories where love refuses to die and justice comes from black wings, this is essential. All right. I stumbled through that, but you get the gist here. We got Eric, who is engaged to be married to Shelley. They go out on a drive, essentially, and run afoul of some very bad ne'er-do-wells who do some really bad things to these people. Number one, killing Eric, and then raping and killing Shelley. So it's bad. Yeah. It's bad. And
in a word.
So the Crow shows up and gives Eric, we'll just say, supernatural powers. The book, I don't know. You can't tell if he's actually dead or not, because in the book, after he's shot, he gets taken to the hospital and he is still able to speak, even though he was shot in the back of the head and shot again. Shortly after that, they're working on him. You can hear somebody say that they flatlined. But the thing that I got from the movie was like Eric Draven was Eric. I don't think they give him a last name in the book here. Eric was brought back from the dead and therefore was, exacting vengeance. But it almost makes it seem like they just leave it. James leaves it ambiguous enough to make you think like maybe he did survive and he just has, some kind of supernatural power. I lean toward he's dead and he's back and he's taking care of business. But yeah,
taking care of business
in every way.
I want to talk about Shelley, believe it or not.
Okay.
I wrote you earlier. I was just like, this is relationship goals besides the outside of the rape and murder. I'm not a romantic, and I was just talking about this on my TikTok live. I've more or less gotten over the stuff with the ex and the falling apart of my marriage. I've been for a while now ready to just move upwards and onwards and move on to better things. It didn't work out. As long as she doesn't come after me or try to take away my kids, I don't really care anymore. I'm moving on. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not like the most romantic of people to begin with. And I will share that before I met my current girlfriend, I was actually kind of resigned, especially because I was still separated and not married and not divorced. Kind of resigned to just not necessarily being partnered. 2 marriages and a lot of really bad dating experiences. I was like, I don't think there's someone for me. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with just doing art, raising my kids, working in that order, and just moving on with my life. And I read a book like this, and I was like, this reminds me that deep down inside, this is a relationship that I would want. It is so, perfectly romantically ethereal. Shelley and Eric are, for me, I can see why this resonated with a lot of girls back when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
Because, for the girls that I knew, this was romance for gothic girls.
This is their ideation of what love is.
We have a comment here. I think if you're this deep into art, books, and movies, you have to be a romantic. That's certainly an idea. I can't really fight you on that. My point being that when I long to have the kind of energy and romance that Eric and Shelley had. And Shelley is by no means, to me, that real. She is all the energy of somebody who is chaotic and none of the toxicity that normally comes with that. It's beautiful. It's completely fictional, but it's beautiful. And Eric, well, I said I was goth adjacent because I wasn't really goth. That's just not me. I've always been kind of a burly, angry, metal, snarling guy. So the kind of wafy, sensitive, gothy guy isn't really something that appeals to me either. But he's such a good match for her, and she's such a good match for him, and they have this wild energy together. And I'm like, God, in a perfect world, that's what I want. I want to be Eric, and I want my Shelley, boobs and all. James O'Barr was definitely working through some stuff. He gave her Power Girl tits, minus the window. I will leave that alone for now. But my point is, I was like, he says such sweet things that he ruins them. But yeah, I like part of what appeals to me about this book is the romance, and that's what makes what happens to her so tragic. Because like rape and murder is such a part of fiction, unfortunately, and a part of the life experience, even more unfortunately, that you have to really frame it properly for it to have impact. And that's the thing is, like, it happens so much later in the book. Like, it's gonna happen because he talks about it the whole time.
Yeah.
And you're kind of going through his revenge tale, and it's at the end of the book that you realize how in love they were, and what a tragic set of circumstances it was that she was taken from the world too early. It's like a modern telling of, like, in the sense of romantic tragedy, that's Romeo and Juliet.
Right.
And it's funny because I was having this conversation with somebody recently. It might have been my son. And it was just like, Romeo and Juliet's kind of a dumb story. It's just like, oh, I think you're dead and we don't have medicine to know otherwise, so I'll kill myself. Oh, I was not dead. I was alive, but now I'll be dead again because you are dead and we are dumb. But it's tragic. It's like these young people, if only they hadn't done a Three's Company, they'd still be alive. That's a dated reference. This doesn't have that. That doesn't have, like, that level of, like, misunderstanding and stupidity. This is just pure, unadulterated, romantic tragedy. And it's not the kind of thing I normally love, but I love this. It's been a while since I've read anything as good as The Crow, which is weird because I didn't think The Crow was going to be this good. But yeah, I really, like, when it was over, I kind of teared up a bit. Like, I got emotional when it was over.
The 3 years between book 4 and book 5, I mean, one would say that's a long wait, but really, what a payoff.
Yeah.
I mean, that 5th issue is just...
God, it makes me even angry at the Lionsgate remake.
I thought about that, and I've never seen it. You covered it. I think I might have... I might have listened to you guys talk about it, do the review, but I just remember that was the sentiment, was it was not good.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate because what you have here, what was missing from that film compared to this book? I mean, can you say off the top of your head?
I don't think the relationship is as good in the movie as it is in the book.
Okay.
I have to go back and rewatch it again. But thinking back to my experience of it, like, because I showed it to my kids about a year or two ago, and I remember watching it with them and thinking, like, the best part of this movie is watching him kill the goons.
Oh yeah,
it's the action of the movie.
I'm sure
his relationship with the kids really, really good. It doesn't always rain, or it has to stop raining sometimes. Like, all of that stuff is really, really good. The curing of the mom from her morphine addiction, and helping mend that relationship between the daughter and the junkie mom, that's all good. The weakest stuff is him and the girlfriend. Like, I don't think the people who made that movie understood the girlfriend character. And I didn't think about it because I hadn't read the book before, so I just assumed she wasn't a big part of the book, or she was just kind of your average tart. And she's not. Like, she's something. They wrote her something special in this book.
Yeah, I was going to say, it is Eric's reason for living.
Yeah.
And then after she dies, she's still the reason he's living.
It's so funny because you're talking to the person who has never forgiven Sam Raimi for that opening fucking line in Spider-Man. Like all things, it was about a girl. Blah, blah. Can we not? Can we not? So, like, you would think, like, I would reject this out of hand, but this is so good.
Yeah. It's a pure romance at the beginning, and it's just something that gets ruined.
She has this manic pixie spirit energy.
Yeah.
Like, I am the spirit of joy, and it's like he's healed through her, and just as soon as that happens, it's all taken away from him, and that's the tragedy.
Yeah, and man,
someone as good as her should not have had such a brutal ending. It's okay. Now I'm good.
No, I was just going to say that I wonder how much of, because he lost his fiance. Obar lost his fiance at 18
Right.
years old. You know, when you're young and there's not a lot of cynicism in your life yet, that comes later, you know,
You tend to think true love is real.
yeah. So I'm certain that he felt like he lost his whole world.
Yeah.
And
He was never going to dance again because Guilty Feet had no rhythm.
there is a real thing that I was picking up on, like, you know, when you lose somebody, I think it was a car accident that she died in. When you lose somebody like that, being a superhero is something that you probably wish you could be to make the other ones pay.
Again, you know, he's the spirit of vengeance, like Ghost Rider is the spirit of vengeance. You know, I think there's like the sort of tragic, depressive, gothic power fantasy. I want to be so powerful I can avenge.
Yes,
my love.
avenge.
I can
right.
take revenge on behalf of that person. I'm gonna read this one. I'm kind of like, I'll put his comments up here, but I don't necessarily feel the need to read them. This one, oh shit. This comment: one's first real love feels eternal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Facts can confirm. And he followed it up with, it's something mythical almost. Yeah. I think the first time you know, it's like any first, you know, I talk about like drug addiction, being a mental health professional. The first time you do serious drugs, it's awesome, but like you'll never have that feeling again. I think the first time you really like move the needle on your pleasure meter, in your internal pleasure meter, it gets hard to recreate that feeling with almost anything, love included.
Yeah. I got a few questions here for you.
Okay.
You ready?
Sure.
All right.
Is it about her tits?
I think you've got your side across there pretty well.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if I was being clear.
You know, some of the best parts of this book, and the climax of this book, in my opinion, happens off panel.
Yeah.
What do you think? Like, do you think that he did a masterful job there of getting like what's going to happen? Would you have rather seen it on the page, or are you okay with the hammer in his hand, T-Bird laying down, and that's the last thing you see?
There's a line said mostly by women to men of, I don't want you to stop what you're doing. I want you to want to do something with me.
Okay.
As the bare bones of that line. I don't want to tell you to come spend time with me. I want you to want to spend time with me. Like, I think women, for, you know, their own sort of childhood princess power fantasies, is a guy that will go through, you know, heaven and hell, heaven and earth to prove their loyalty and devotion to you. You know, the kind of like, I will kill dragons, and I will rope a star, and I will do all the Herculean deeds just to be close to you, just to show you how much I love you. And like that, like, and that's kind of the mentality of a lot of girls. And I feel like that was James O'Barr's kind of journey in this book of, I don't know how else to tell you how much I love you and how much you mean to me, and how bereft of being whole I am without you. So I'm going to send this character on this journey, and because this isn't necessarily about killing people, it's about healing trauma. You don't necessarily have to see all the gore. The point of the story is the journey Eric goes on to show, to redeem this woman's brutal death through Herculean deeds. That was my impression of The Crow, at least, through reading this book.
I was trying to find the question because I thought I copied it over, because I was trying to come up with some great stuff, and there was this one that really hit home, and I wanted to ask you.
Right.
I mean,
let me read this out. Then it's about loyalty and the justice that flows from that. That's kind of what I'm saying.
Right. As far as the art style goes, Okay. This was black and white.
Yep.
But we definitely have some change in some specific parts of the book, specifically the dream/memory sequences, where it becomes, oh God, goodness, would you call that painted almost? I mean, it's still black and white, but it looks very paintbrushy to me for some reason. I don't know why. And then when you have
my interpretation was like he was using a mime as metaphor. You know, mimes don't talk, and they kind of interact in the world. They when you see someone doing mime, they are interacting in a world in a way that's different from everybody else on the planet. You know, I'm in an invisible box. You know, that sort of thing.
Right.
For the mime, it's real. But you know, the mime is sort of operating on a ghost world that's also occupying the same time and space as the real world. That's what I feel like that's why I think he dresses. Look, this is his imagination. He could have done the Crow anyway. You know, he could have dressed him up like fucking Batman for all we knew. He specifically gave him a very specific look. That's why I was saying I think he was going for mime, and I think for him that's what mime is.
Yeah. The black and white, I love when the Crow's out on the street. I mean, it looks gritty, it looks grimy. The lines are all sharp, and the dream sequences, you know, just to kind of get that across. It's more paintbrushy, it's more airy. It seems like it's more fantasy filled. You definitely.
So I mentioned something about like Shelley's body type. Just to be fair, he also could not have given Eric any less of a list.
And like 20 abs.
Yeah, I mean, like you draw Tony Stark, or you draw Captain America or Thor, and they still look like an appropriate male body shape. And then there's this motherfucker, you know, who look like he should be selling Calvin Klein jeans.
Tell me what you think of this, because apparently we talk about how O'Barr did this, and he's, you know, talked about it. Other people talk about it. The foreword in the book that I read talked about how he was using this to kind of process what was going on with the tragedy that happened in his life. He came out and said that this, as much as he wanted to be cathartic, actually made him more self-destructive.
Okay.
And I mean, I know that's a personal, obviously, whatever happened here, I don't know if it didn't work or maybe he was working through it. Do you have any, I mean, what do you think of that?
I mean, there are people who say I would prefer to not talk about my trauma. It's going to dredge up a lot of stuff, and I don't really have the scaffolding to support it right now. When I was first going through social work school and I did a group, I was really, really good about getting people to talk. And I ended the session and we hadn't really resolved anything or like put a capstone on it. Like now when I talk to people, if we get into a really heavy, intense session where there's a lot of emotion, about the last 5 to 10 minutes, I will lighten the mood. There was a girl who we would have very intense sessions, and then for the last 5 minutes, I would mansplain basketball to her because it got her mind off the really raw.
What was going on?
Yeah,
right.
And she couldn't give a fuck less about basketball. What she needed was to get pulled out of, like when I did my own EMDR therapy with my therapist after Melissa and I initially split. The last 10 to 15 minutes, the therapist always made sure to kind of get me out of it again. Because if you're, because you can absolutely get stuck there, and sort of relive, like part of one of the symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder is flashback, it's like reliving the trauma. And
that's happening in The Crow here.
Yeah, I mean, it could absolutely happen through therapy. And that's why like the therapist has to really take great pains to make sure you're not there. Like, all right, lots of luck. You're like, oh.
Yeah, that's definitely happening here in The Crow. Heath Ledger's Joker in The Dark Knight shares visual and thematic similarities with Brandon Lee's character in The Crow. Yeah, I mean, look, both characters notably have a pale white face with dark smudged makeup around the eyes, and both are portrayed as chaotic and destructive forces. True. Absolutely true. Additionally, both Lee and Ledger died at a young age, 28, during or shortly after filming their respective movies, adding to the eerie parallels between the two characters and their portrayals.
That's really
correct.
That's really great insight. Thank you, Jess.
Yeah. and you need to look up something about Sting and the NWO. And
Oh, poor Sting.
This was a great book.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to sit down and actually kind of absorb this. And, I reading this and understanding what Obar went through, and I mean, you could clearly tell he's trying to work through what happened to him. There's a lot of kind of, I imagine, wish fulfillment in this character. Yeah. There you go. That's being real right there. I get it. That's exactly what I would have been doing. But yeah, I mean, he put out a piece that was raw, just like the gist said. It was
Someone
raw.
tell Lana Wachowski this is how you should work through your trauma.
Yeah.
Not with someone's $200 million fucking movie budget. Psycho.
All right. Good book all around.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. So let's go ahead. We'll get on to The Many Deaths of Laila Starr. I had no idea this book existed. No clue. And apparently this is pretty recent. This came out at least the trade came out in 2022.
This is always in the bookstore whenever I go look at the comic book section at like Books A Millions or Barnes and Nobles. I always see copies of this.
Because this is the Eisner Award winning something or other, I'm sure.
And it's Boom Studios, and there's always a big collection of Boom Studio stuff.
Gotcha.
I want to say like this, for what it was, sold pretty well.
Okay. All right. Well, Ram V is our writer. Artist Felipe Andrade, lettered by And World Design. So this is an interesting book.
Yeah, I love this book.
What drew you to it? Just you saw some books, grabbed it off the shelf. Was there anything that kind of made you go, I want to grab
like
this?
I said, when I was looking for 2 other books to do with The Crow for a future recording, I asked ChatGPT, I was like, what thematically
That's
would
right.
be similar to The Crow? And this book came up. Having now read it, I can see why.
Yeah. Well, here's the gist. The Many Deaths of Laila Starr is a gorgeously illustrated, deeply human fable that blends myth, morality, and Mumbai into something both timeless and intimate. When the goddess of death is fired, her role made obsolete by the impending birth of a child destined to invent immortality, she's cast into a mortal body and sent spiraling through the boy's life at key moments, sometimes seeking to end him, other times simply trying to understand him. Across decades and reincarnations, Layla's journey becomes less about stopping death and more about learning what makes life precious in the first place. With poetic writing, vivid characters, and an emotional arc that lingers long after the final page, it's a story for anyone who's ever pondered the value of a fleeting moment. I didn't know what I was going to be getting here. And when I started reading it, I was like, oh, okay. I like the premise of this book. I like, we're starting out in Mumbai. We have various gods and goddesses, and here's Death, who is getting let go.
This is another one I could see being made into either a series or a movie.
Yeah. This would be a fun time. At least it's kind of like a bittersweet story, because what we get at the end is a kind of a great message.
Yeah.
But she gets put into Laila Starr's body, and Laila at that moment is killing her. Well, I wouldn't say she killed herself. She either slipped or she jumped, one or the other in this party. And that's kind of like where we see our cover here, where she's falling. And then as she hits the ground, she's in the hospital, and Death ends up getting into her body. And then hijinks ensue after that. One of which, I love how each situation, each book, she shows up and ends up getting killed in some way by the end of the book, and then awakening sometime later. But the whole
it's an interesting interpretation on like the idea of like a god coming down to earth, like a Thor or a Hercules or something like that, where it's just like, I don't really know how humanity works. I keep fucking up and dying.
Yeah. She has and the beginning of in the first issue, she has the baby in her hands. This baby that is going, the whole reason, the guy that's going to invent immortality, and she could kill him, and she doesn't. So
nobody
she makes
can
it
kill a baby. No,
nobody
decent can kill a baby, I should say.
Decent. Okay. So she puts the baby back down. And then, of course, the cops are like coming after her because she was just dead a few minutes ago. She runs out and ends up getting hit by a bus. And by the end of the issue, she's awakened by Prana, I believe is his name, the god of life. But what has happened is time has passed. And because time has passed, the kid has gotten older. And so each book is a stage in this kid's life. Darius is his name. And Layla goes to find Darius and possibly kill him. Prana's always like, hey, you still got some time. He's still out there. And she goes, and then she ends up running into him or running into Ka the Crow or some kind of weird guide on her journey. And by the end of this book, she finds Darius at a very old age. And he tells her, yeah, I invented eternal life when I was 49. And through a series of, she finally sits down and talks to him after all of this time. And he's like, you can have the secret to immortality is in the shoebox above my closet. He's like, oh, okay. And the only thing that he wants, he's this old bearded man, is for his son to come back because they had a falling out after his mom had died. So, but the journey to get to there is great. I want to talk about I'll let you talk here first. What are your thoughts on this book?
I love this book. This is one of my favorite things that you and I have ever talked about. Completely out of left field. It is beautifully colored and illustrated. I love the color paletting in this. This has I can see why I got linked with The Crow. It's kind of the through the looking glass version of The Crow in the sense that it also deals with death and its implications, but instead of a gothic way, a colorful, ethereal, fantasy, vibrant pixie way. I am also a citizen of the world, and I like use of traditional Indian aesthetic. I thought that was a nice change of pace.
Yeah, I
can see why this didn't do well in the United States. But I love this concept of death is a job, and she's been fired, and she's self-motivated, but also not used to being immortal, so she keeps having problems. I told you I don't really want to do a lot of hero stuff anymore, but she absolutely has the hurdles a hero would have to overcome in order to achieve their hero's journey, their arc. The conversation she has with him when he's middle-aged and he's real bitter, that is really good stuff. That's a good dramatic conversation.
Oh yeah.
And then, like I said, I love the conclusion. I was really interested in what was going on in this book. I was fascinated by it. I liked a lot of the Indian theological imagery. I just I had a really good time with this. I wish more people knew about it.
I'll tell you my favorite moment of this whole book is book 4, issue 4, when she shows up, and I think at that moment he's 38 years old.
Yeah,
and she.
That's what I was saying. That conversation.
Yeah, she walks in there, and it was just after his wife had died.
Right.
And she explains, okay, here's the deal. I'm just going to try to talk you out of doing this. I don't want to kill you. I just don't want you to create eternal life. And he is not having any of it because what he starts to realize is that she had been there at other moments in his life right around when somebody else died. And he is outraged because he doesn't understand why death had taken his wife. And it's such a moving conversation that they have where she just sits down and tries. She didn't have anything to do with the death of his wife. She's obviously been off the job. She's sitting down here on Earth right now. So something else is happening. People are still dying, but that's aside. You got to set that aside right now. But regardless, that conversation that she has with Darius, and Darius is just you are right now because you are here, I just want to let you know you are the reason I am going to invent eternal life. I'm going to do it. We're not going to have to worry about death anymore. And so she realizes she's pushed him to do exactly what she didn't want him to do in the first place.
What is it? A paradox or where something from a different era in time causes you to do the thing that you're doing?
Yeah. That's exactly what happened. I mean, now he's actually set on this path, and she ends up getting, I cannot remember what happens in this case to where she dies. But when she wakes up again, he's an old man. And then that's where she finds out he had made the secret to eternal life. He just never shared it with anybody. So there's a lot of like deep thought. There's a lot of like dealing with death and the meaning of life in this book, which it's a great commentary, a great story about it. So I again, I got a few questions here for you. Easy one right off the bat. Not deep at all. Do you think death is what gives life meaning, or could life still have meaning without it?
Dude, we've been exploring that kind of thing in like vampire lore and other elements of fiction that I'm gonna re-explain it this way. You and I, over the course of doing podcasting, I brought up the concept of the long tail. That when there is scarcity, there is value and there is meaning. When there is no scarcity, when there is limitless, infinite shelf space, it starts to have no value. Right? I think the same can be said of the human experience, the life experience. When life is forcibly precious, it's that much more valuable. I'm 50, or I'll be 50 in one more year. And I've only got probably conceivably another 25, 30 years left. And I look back at the previous 50. Now, for the first 18 to 20, I didn't have a lot of choice. but for the past 30, I've had a lot of choices. Some of it didn't work out nearly the way I thought it was going to, and I thought I was making the best decision at the time. But I'm very conscious of how I want to spend the next 30, because it might be my last. And I think that kind of mentality, again, you're asking, like, do you think death makes life more valuable, like worth living? And I'm like, absolutely. Having already died almost twice, because of cancer, it was a reminder that life is a precious gift, and it's it's worth trying to live the best life you're able to. I have a real struggle with people who are very quick to say, your life is not valuable because you disagree with me or hold different values or whatever. And I don't want to get too much on a tangent about that, but that's one of the things I picked out of the book too, was this discussion of the value of life. And how that changes when you're like, an infinite being. Yeah. Right. I was thinking about like Interview with the Vampire. Some of the stuff that gets discussed in that book is like, just after a while, like eternal life is agonizing, or even better, some of the stuff that we talked about with Black Mirror, where you just have this infinite life living in a computer simulation of some kind. Right. Yeah. And it's like, what torture that is. Yeah. I don't think the mind is meant to experience infinite. Yeah. Yeah, I think death absolutely gives life meaning. Yeah. I think without it, it is, this is just my opinion, but I think without death, what purpose do you serve? I mean, I'm sure you can do something, but you don't have to. You can. It changes your decision making, doesn't it? Yeah, it absolutely does. You choose this, not that, because this has consequences and that doesn't. Mm-hmm. But what if there are no consequences? Then what would you do? Right. This is a great question that I think really ties in with the type of work that you do. Yeah. Evolution would not work without death. I agree. Have you ever seen someone's grief, like Darius's after Manaka's death, push them to try to change the world for better or for worse? Isn't it like half the villain origin stories? Dude, isn't that like the whole Mr. Freeze thing? Like he isn't Mr. Freeze without the death of his beloved.
Right. I mean, this is a tale as old as time in books.
Yeah.
This is somebody loses somebody. There's some type of tragedy, and okay, now we are going to change the world in some way. In IRL, Mark. IRL, have you ever seen anybody lose somebody or experience some type of tragedy? Yeah.
I'm like Industrial Light and Magic. No, that's ILM.
ILM.
In real life, got it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know how much I've seen of that, like necessarily in my therapeutic work, only because they may not have mentioned it.
Okay.
But here's what I'll tell you. You brought it up before, and I didn't want to continually interrupt you, so I just kept it to myself. But I was thinking about a patient that I've dealt with who experienced the death of a child, a very like an infant, and he was already like affected by various traumas in his life, but the death of his infant like really pushed him over the edge, and a lot of it was just sort of the world stopped making sense. He was a church going guy, the kind of guy that goes on religious missions, that sort of thing. He just a good, honest, hard-working American, husband, father, all those things that we aspire to be as as men. He's that guy, and then this happens, and it's just like his grasp of a sensical world, where he can operate and have some degree of predictability shatters.
Yeah.
Because in what world is it right and good for God to take your infant child?
Right.
When the world stops making sense, why bother to participate in it? Two things about that. So there's studies that show that infants, toddlers, if you put a show on and it has a narrative flow to it, they will pay attention for however long a toddler pays attention to anything. If you put the same show on but cut it up into nonsense to where it has no narrative flow, toddlers won't pay attention at all.
Okay.
There's an inherent need to participate in a world that has flow and makes sense and has consequences for actions. And again, think about any game you've ever played. Like you play D&D, right?
Yes.
Right. Would D&D be enjoyable if the DM played by his own rules and you never dice rolls changed, what they meant, attributes changed. Suddenly, whatever the DM is doing, he can just change it at a whim. It wouldn't be fun anymore.
Right.
Same principle.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, personally for myself, I don't know if I know a few people that have lost. I mean, the first type of person I could think of, somebody who loses somebody to cancer is now like, okay, I'm going to go cure cancer. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that think that they're going to do something, but probably take it down to a more realistic level. Like, okay, well, I'm going to start a foundation to fund the research in order to cure cancer, or, things like that. I think changing the world's a big deal.
So the fella in the thing, he says, "Why didn't God ask Abraham to sacrifice his son to him because he needed to test his loyalty because he didn't know?" There's a lot. Like God is very insecure in the Old Testament. Like, yeah, he gets called out by the devil and fucks Job over. It's just like, oh, my most loyal servant. Oh, yeah, he's only loyal because you give him such great things, and he's like, well, I'll take them all away. How about that, devil? The devil's just like, ugh, you're so easy. You're so easy, God. He's bringing up the thing about Abraham, it's just like, I need to test your loyalty. What are you, a girl? Knock it off! Stop hurting your loyal servants. Get Cat Williams out here. This is me, Cat Williams, your humble servant.
I want to ask you about Laila and her putting the shoebox in the ocean at the very end. Mm-hmm. What was your thoughts there?
It felt like the end product of processing. It felt like it was a very like symbolic thing of like, I'm done with this now. I can distance myself from it. I can say goodbye to this thing. this thing that has been kind of controlling my feelings, my emotions, my decision making. Sorry, I have to put this on here because after that whole like side tangent, I'm sorry, I'm basically a militant atheist fundamentalist. Fantastic. Jesse, are you frozen? Jesse might be frozen. Yikes. So I will vamp here while Jesse unfreezes, hopefully soon. He was asking me about. I saw Jesse move.
I'm here.
There you
I'm
go.
here. My
There you go.
VPN is routed through Canada, and they must be having some bad weather up there. I don't know what's going on.
Well, stop
Anyway, go ahead.
through Canada, psycho. I was starting to say
shoebox on the ocean.
The shoebox on the ocean. Yeah, I always go back to that bubbles line. You know, like it's okay to grieve as long as you make room for other things. Like, you know, just like I have this thing and I'm ready to set it free. You know, you sit with your grief or your trauma long enough for you to deal with it, and then you can release it and set it free into the world.
Yeah.
I think it's like, for me, it's a metaphor for forgiveness.
Okay.
The Ted Lasso line to Jamie in the second or third season, where he was like, "What would you say? What would you say to your dad if he were here right now?" And he was just like, "Thank you and fuck you." And they were talking about forgiveness. He was like, "You're not, like, would you forgive your dad?" And he was like, "I wouldn't forgive him because fuck that guy." And he was just like, you're not giving it to your dad. You're giving it to yourself.
Yeah.
So that kind of element.
Yeah, I mean, she has this is the whole reason she set up out on this journey, was to make sure that the formula of eternal life does not get found. And I mean, I guess when she sets it out on the sea, I see it sitting in a shoebox. I'm like, well, it's just going to sink to the bottom of the sea. That's the first thing that goes through my mind. But you don't see that happen. You see it floating, which is more kind of like ambiguous that, oh, maybe somebody could come by and pick it up. You don't know. It's floating out to sea. And my interpretation was like, okay, she has this thing that she's been chasing after this whole time. She's went through this whole process, learned so much, and now she is allowing fate to kind of decide as to what's going to happen. That was my interpretation.
I talk a lot about like control, and control is linked to anxiety, and sometimes you have to kind of give up trying to control the things you can't control. She set this thing was not hers, and she set it free. And she's like, whatever happens to it, happens to it. Right.
That's kind of what I thought. And I asked, when I was working through my thoughts with ChatGPT, I said, okay, this is the thing that I was telling you that felt revelatory to me. When I said, what is it that I missed? Can you look through the stuff? Is there some stuff that I missed? And this is what it came up with. And it makes complete sense to me. So it says, you saw it as her letting fate decide, but there's a deeper layer. By neither destroying nor using the formula, she's stepping outside of the role of judge.
Yeah.
It's almost an admission that she doesn't have the right to decide for everyone else. That's a huge shift for someone who used to decide when everyone died. And I was like, well, shit. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it is kind of a big deal. This whole point, she goes into this, she's death. She's the person, she's billions of souls. She's taken billions of souls.
Can I read this to you?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The Many Deaths of Laila Starr by Ram V and Felipe Andrade, a modern fable draped in color whimsy. Whimsy is the word I was looking for earlier.
I like whimsy.
And philosophical reflection. Where the crow confronts death from the perspective of someone who has been wronged and cannot move on, Laila Starr takes us to the other side of the veil entirely. Here, death herself is fired from her cosmic job because humanity is on the verge of discovering immortality. Stripped of her powers, she's reincarnated as Laila Starr, a mortal woman living in Mumbai. The book follows her as she repeatedly dies and returns, each time intersecting with the life of the boy destined to end death itself. If the crow is raw, jagged grief, Laila Starr is a lyrical conversation about acceptance. That's why I wanted to read this.
Ooh, yeah, that's good.
It's not about avenging the dead. It's about understanding that mortality is what gives life meaning in the first place. Ramvi's writing is poetic without losing clarity, and Andrade's art is awash in colors that feel alive through the page itself is breathing. Through her encounters with the boy at various stages of his life, Layla moves from bitterness and resentment towards compassion and understanding. It's the long arc of acceptance that The Crow never attempts, because that book is about refusing to let go.
Yeah, that fifth issue of this story, when we kind of open up and there's a dog that they find and they're like, take it to the old man who he's able to take care of people. I'm like, oh crap. My initial thought was like Darius had grown old and it's kind of like selectively using the formula. That doesn't happen here.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like, oh crap, he actually has it. But yeah, when they show up, she talks with them, and he explains to her, yeah, I never used it because I just felt that there was no sense in it. It's neat how he describes, like, after he invented it, he goes and watches a movie, he goes and does this, and I think he starts to realize all these things that people do to make themselves happy, is because they are trying to live their life. The removing death would make life without meaning. And he himself has an inoperable brain tumor at the end of this. And he ends up, again, like I said, calling his son over, and they kind of make amends. And here's the final line. I'll read it to you, Mark. You could more than welcome if you want to interpret it, whatever. Perhaps it is enough, the miracle that it was simply to have lived. What a way. I feel like that sentence was written before this story even began. I mean,
it's funny. It's funny you should focus on that. There was a conversation that took place at my dinner table tonight with me and my kids before I took them back to their mom, and it was I was talking about choices you make in the world and whether or not you choose to live and make mistakes, or if you just restrict everything in the hopes that there's something in the afterlife for you, and that this is a motivating factor for some of our, I don't want to talk about Robert, but there are people who believe, such as Robert does, that if you leave a chaste life in the afterlife, you will be rewarded with paradise.
Right.
However, there's people like me who, what a waste of life to not live it. I almost feel like it's antithetical to the definition of life. Life is to be lived. Life is to be enjoyed. Should you make some sacrifices? Should you not give in to every single fucking whim you have? Yes. You should absolutely find the place in the middle of enjoyment and restriction. But I think that's everyone's kind of personal journey. Mm-hmm. My struggle with Robert and people who believe the way that he does, not him personally, but like the belief in and of itself is, yes, it is entirely dependent on faith, which is not necessarily the thing I want to attack, but more of, why does it have to be zero sum? Like, you have to have the worst life on Earth in order to have the best life afterwards.
Right.
Yeah. Why can't you do both? Why can't you make the most of the life that you've been blessed with? And then if something happens in the afterlife where you're also rewarded, okay, great. Like, I don't understand why. Like, I do, because it's a moral lesson. It's domesticating lesson. It's a civilizing lesson of don't be an animal, But I was telling you before, like, I made the Fra Diavolo album, and such unadulterated joy listening to some of this music.
Yeah. Right.
I don't want to live my life without joy. I don't want to live my life without love. So, it's going back to the Laila Starr thing. Like, I do think that there is room in this world, to experience those things and not live the most chaste life ever for the promise of something better in the afterlife.
Right. Right.
Which is literally the conversation I had with my kids earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They come away with it going, you're right, Dad.
I mean, there was a lot of ideas being bandied about, but that was my take.
That's good. That's good.
No, their take was, why did you make 2 pork chops apiece? Who do you think we are? This is a giant waste of food, psycho. That was their take.
2 pork chops a piece.
Mm-hmm. They were small pork chops. What if their mother doesn't feed them, Jesse? What
I
if?
know. It's a constant fear. I get it. Yeah, as far as the many deaths of Laila Starr, if you are somebody that kind of has an open mind, you're interested in thoughtful, spiritual, or philosophical.
This is not a big guns book, Chris Bailey.
Right. This is not a big guns book. This is something that has a bit of a kind of a bit of a message, a bit of a take on life and death, and
a
it's
playfulness to it.
Yeah, it's a good story, wrapped in somewhat of a message. So, yeah, if you get a chance, I'm glad it's out there, and there's a lot of people have it sitting on the shelves. They should be able to pick it up and read it. It's a good book. So, there it is, Mark. We did it. We made it through all 3 books, buddy. We even had a friend of ours join us here, and we had a good discussion. I appreciate him popping on here and talking with us. So, let's get into plugs. You got anything left? Anything you want to get into before we get into that?
Well, I know you put these up at a different thing. So if you're watching the live feed, tomorrow we're reviewing War of the Worlds. And then Tuesday, Alexis and Robert and Jason are going to talk weapons. And then Thursday, myself and you, as a matter of fact, and maybe Andrew, and who the hell knows who else, will be finally concluding our look at the West Wing. So that'll be fun. Next week, we're reviewing on next week, Sunday, we're reviewing Baby Metal, and then Night Always Comes, which is another Netflix movie. And then myself and Alexis are reviewing Resident Alien Season 4. And then on Thursday, I think it's me and Mick, and we're going to be looking at some Netflix movies. Get the names.
What are the names?
What are the names? What's in the box? Fear Street. That's what I couldn't remember.
What's in the box?
Fear Street Prom Queen.
Okay.
Yeah, Fear Street Prom Queen.
Okay.
The Old Guard 2 and Fountain of Youth, which is an.
Did you watch all the other Fear Street movies?
Yeah, a couple years ago, Ronnie and Sean and I did a Long Road to Ruin on them.
Got it. Okay. All right.
So yeah, just check me out on TikTok. I take these podcasts that we do and I kind of do like 1 to 2 minute face forward reads, kind of summing up what we talked about on the podcast or the intro to the podcast. But I also do reactions to news stories that are getting longer and longer every day. I have what I've started is Radulich University, which is basically taking my Goodreads list and I made a link tree out of it to Amazon. And I'm doing kind of advertisements for books that I've read that have shaped the person I am now. I told you, like, after 9/11, I started reading a lot of nonfiction, and I would kind of read in, like, bulk. You know, I would, like, kind of, like my own personal college audit. So I went back through my Goodreads list, and one by one, I'm doing kind of TikToks on all of these books that I've read, and it's called Radulich University because I am a master of branding. And then I have these like big idea pieces. I've been talking a lot about AI and real estate, and I have child care tips and child rearing tips and things like that. A lot of historical stuff. Some of it hits, some of it goes viral, some of it doesn't. More than anything else, I need to get myself to 10,000 followers because it's the only way to make money with TikTok, or learn how to sell products in the TikTok shop, and I have not mastered that skill. Not at all, actually.
The old TikTok shop.
Yeah. All right, that's it. That's all I got.
All right. I don't know if you mentioned this or not, but Wednesday, did you mention what's going on Wednesday with me and Alexis hanging out and talking Stranger Things?
Oh, is it happening this Wednesday?
I believe so, unless I'm missing it somewhere. I think it's going to be happening this Wednesday. It'll be season 1 of Stranger Things. Me and Alexis getting together, and I don't know if she's having anybody else on there or not, but we're going to have a good time talking about that. Previous Monday, it was me, Al Sedano, getting together talking about the 3rd volume of Quantum and Woody.
I knew you were going to say Quantum and Woody.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. There was a goat involved, so as always, the goat is
return
there.
of the swollen goat.
Tomorrow, Unspoken Issues returns. It's the 90s comics centric podcast on the Source Material comics feed there. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about Fantastic Four number 371, which we're in the middle of gimmick cover summer. And that is the Fantastic Four issue where it was just completely white.
Mm-hmm.
And Johnny Storm went Nova. But like I said, it wouldn't have looked like it was on fire if it wasn't for the fact that we had Sue Storm in the boob window with the Fantastic with the 4 right there on her chest.
Yep.
That was the introduction of that outfit. So,
hey,
and then
real quick, our next source material is September 14th, and we're going to talk Day Tripper. Just Day Tripper.
Day Tripper. I can't wait.
12 issues because I'm not allowed to do that more than that anymore.
It'll be 3 episodes of 4-piece.
Yes.
We can do it. And then, yes, me and Evan Bevins get together and talk about Marvel Snaps. If you like Marvel Snap, that'll show up on the Source Material comics feed as well. It's called Snap Material. I'm an expert at branding as well. So, with that being said, let's get on out of here. Mark Radulich, thanks for joining me tonight. I'm Jesse Starcher. Have a good one. Bye-bye.